Hello and welcome to this edition of Correspondence. Now this week we are in Paris's 20th arrondissement. I know this looks like a little village and it's actually known as La Campagne à Paris. That means the countryside in Paris. These charming little houses were built at the beginning of the 20th century to house workers, of course. Now they are priceless. This week, as usual, we'll be taking you around the world with France 24's very best reports. We'll be going to Germany, to Hungary, and also to the Democratic Republic of Congo. But we start in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, where the famous Carnival parade has been cancelled due to the pandemic. In all, 236,000 people have died across the country due to the coronavirus. So, samba schools and Brazilians have had to adapt. It's a report by Tim Vickery and Mariam Kone.
Exactly 1 year ago, Brazil's most famous avenue pulsing to the frenetic rhythm of samba. The stands of the Sambadrome, usually in full swing, are this year empty, illuminated in tribute to the victims of COVID-19. To avoid social gatherings, the local authorities have deployed 1,000 police officers. Their mission, to flush out clandestine celebrations and control bars and restaurants, like this restaurant in the Lapa district, a traditional place for carnival hijinks.
Eles não respeitam o distanciamento de 1 metro. Tá bom?
Sempre mais difícil, porque tem mais pessoas na rua. E as pessoas querem ficar sentadas e a gente tem que... Entendeu?
In the face of restrictions, imagination's called for. The samba schools, the great victims of this cancellation, are losing nearly 20 million euros. Portela, one of the most famous samba schools, is holding an online concert to raise funds.
Já que não temos os desfiles, vamos passar um pouco de alegria do que nós fizemos na Sapucaí, para o pessoal que está em casa se divertir um pouquinho também. E claro, nós aqui estamos nos divertindo.
In this empty room, instead of an enthusiastic audience, there are technicians and broadcasting equipment.
Então você também que está em casa aí, que faz parte disso, faz o carnaval.
Carnival at home is the choice made by Camila Ribeiro's family.
Vai botar no rosto do seu pai? Será que ele vai querer? Vai, analisei.
Makeup and glitter for an online concert of their favourite street band.
Dá pra lembrar, vai guardar postinho de que ano que vem vai ter. A gente posta, mas sabe que vai ter ano que vem, tem que ser o dobro.
More than 200 samba schools and street bands have gone online, spreading joy and consolation in the country with the world's second highest COVID death toll.
In Hungary, Prime Minister Viktor Orbán has decided to authorize the use of the Russian Sputnik V vaccine against the coronavirus. This despite the fact that the European Medicines Agency has not yet vetted it. It's a report by Gulliver Cragg.
Budapests Castle district usually throngs with visitors. Not under lockdown. Most restaurants are closed or open only for takeaway like this one.
Here in the castle, 80–85% of our guests were tourists, so you can imagine that they all gone now. Obviously without tourists, it's not much we can do. We focus on the local clientele. Not much else we can do, we're just waiting for the opening to happen.
The Prime Minister promises that opening will come sooner thanks to his decision to buy the Russian Sputnik V vaccine.
Megértem a vendéglátó soknak, meg a szállodásoknak is az elkeseredését. Vakcina érkezett, ezért a gazdaságvédelem átadta a helyét a gazdaság újraindításának.
No matter, he says, that the Russian jabs don't have EU approval.
Nem lehetséges, hogy azért halljanak meg magyar emberek, mert a brüsszeli vakcina beszerzés lassú.
But the move has raised concerns in Budapest. The independent MP Ákos Hadházi says Hungary took risks by rushing its approval of Sputnik V in order to score points against the EU.
Az egyik az az, hogy propaganda célokat folytasson, tehát a Brüsszelre mutogasson, hogy Brüsszelből nem jön a vakcina, és helyette majd minket ugye a moszkvaiak megmentenek.
Hungary has received 40,000 doses of the vaccine, but it plans to buy enough doses to vaccinate 1 million Hungarians, that's 10% of the population, using the Russian jab.
In Germany, the pandemic is hurting an industry that's also a national treasure: beer. Now, some breweries have started selling on the internet to make ends meet, but most of them will not survive without a substantial government handout. It's a report by N. Meyer.
In Germany, it's not just a drink, it's an entire culture. Like many brewers, Oliver Lemke sells most of his beer in his own restaurants in Berlin, now all closed because of COVID.
Before Corona, we produced 6,000 hectoliters of beer a year, but now we're making barely 3,000, which is a significant drop.
In normal times, this brewer employed 12 people in production, another 100 in the pubs. They're all on part-time work now. As in most of the 1,500 breweries in Germany, most of the beer ships out in kegs.
80% of our production is for restaurants, but with the pandemic, the market has simply disappeared.
Oliver Lemke has started selling online to try to claw back some of his business. With restaurants, bars, and football stadiums all closed, beer consumption dropped by 5.5% in 2020, or a whopping 500 million litres, a collapse unheard of since the end of World War II. But Germans still love to suck back the suds, says this specialist. Consumption in bottles is still solid.
People drink a bit more beer at home because of the lockdown, because there's not a lot to do. But they're drinking more conscientiously, so they go on the internet to find new products.
A small consolation for brewers, the Industry Federation warns of a wave of bankruptcies.
We see more and more small breweries in states of complete distress. We think that dozens of family companies are right on the edge of shutting up shop.
Restaurants aren't reopening anytime soon, so brewers want financial help from the government, a way, they say, of protecting a cherished national tradition some 500 years old.
Now to the Democratic Republic of the Congo, and more precisely to the Kivu High Plateaus. There, a group of local farmers is producing Gouda cheese. Now, our correspondents Clément Bonnereau and Juliette Dubois have tasted it. They say it is just as good as the Dutch original. Here is their report.
Congolese people call it the Switzerland of Africa. With its lush green hills and rich pastures, North Kivu's Masisi region is an ideal place to raise cattle. Father Romain says it's no surprise his cows give the best milk in the country.
We're at an altitude of 1,900 meters. Here we have a mountain climate with mild temperatures. Down in the valley it's very hot and there are a lot of mosquitoes.
Milking is done by hand every morning, a tradition that goes back to colonial times. In the 1950s, Belgian priests came up with the idea of making their own Gouda cheese.
Milk has always been a part of our traditional diet. People would drink it at home. But it was Father Roger Cabonnet who taught farmers how to turn milk into cheese.
Back at the farm, the milk is curdled, cut and pressed to give it its shape. The cheese wheels are then matured for 4 to 6 weeks. And to make sure they're the best quality, Father Romain has his own method.
This is how I check for holes. During the ripening process, some cheeses develop holes because of the air trapped inside, and they start to swell.
Cheese from North Kivu is hugely popular across DR Congo, including in the capital, Kinshasa. In fact, Congolese people like it so much, local shops often run out of stock.
It tastes amazing because they only use natural ingredients. It's just milk. I like to have mine wrapped in bread with some cucumber and sausage.
Sometimes we sell more than 60 pieces in a single day. We open at 7 a.m. and by 1 or 2 p.m. they're all gone.
So hurry up and grab a slice before it's too late.
Well, that's it for this edition. I'd like to thank our camerawoman Armel Coe and our producer Natacha Milleret. I leave you with these pictures of a carnival that took place a long way away from Paris, but in France. In Martinique and the Guadeloupe, a group of people decided to party despite the coronavirus restrictions. Thank you for watching the show, and please do stay safe and stay tuned to France 24.